It was a wild finish to the 60-day filing period for the Texas legislature. The Texas Speaker of the House told us today that more than 9,000 bills and resolutions were filed by Friday's deadline last week. The House filed 6,000, the Senate nearly 3,000. And of those bills filed, at least 100 of them could change how we vote in Texas. In fact, just today, the Texas Senate gave final approval to Senate Bill 2, which would make illegal voting a felony. That now goes to the House. Tonight, Jason Whiteley is taking a closer look at some other voting bills and is finding out why voter turnout here in Texas regularly ranks low.
Less than 90 days left in this legislature. The deadline for lawmakers to file bills has just passed, and more than 100 proposals either tinker with Texas elections or might change the way we vote again.
There's probably going to end up being some larger bill that sort of eats these other smaller ideas, even if it means like we're just legislating what's already in the law.
2 years ago, Texas Republicans famously eliminated drive-through voting in 24-hour polling places. Here are some of the ideas they have this year. Senate Bill 1338 by Bob Hall would prohibit people 65 and older from voting by mail anymore, unless they have a disability. House Bill 2390 by State Rep Kerry Isaac would ban election sites on college campuses. And Senate Bill 2 by Brian Hughes would change the penalty for illegal voting from a misdemeanor to a second-degree felony.
There aren't thousands of people illegally registered to vote who are voting and casting fraudulent ballots. Like, this is a solution without a problem. And so we have to consider that the law itself is meant to be a deterrent, right? So we're going to pass all of these laws that make voting really concerning, and like you could face a felony for making a mistake. You're just not going to go.
Jessica Guzman is the editorial director at votebeat.org and one of our guests on the latest episode of Yall-itics, which we recorded at Blue Goose Cantina just before it closes after almost 40 years on Lower Greenville. Guzman said the bigger problem Texas has right now is low voter turnout.
The population in Texas makes it a little bit more difficult because we're talking about people who have just moved here, people who are newly citizens of the United States, whose parents by definition couldn't vote, and so they have to create that culture themselves and instill it in their family.
State leaders continue to come up with ideas for our elections, more than 100 this session alone. But none of them appear to be centered on changing the culture of voting in Texas. In Dallas, I'm Jason Whiteley.
Okay, so here's the deal. Jason Whiteley was in this one. I was off last week on vacation, so this week's episode is co-hosted by our political producer, Bernadine Steptoe. And you can download it now wherever you get your podcasts, or just take a picture of that QR code. It'll take you right to it.